always be grateful. Could hardly believe it, but it's sinking in now, the enormity of what has taken place. Peaceful election, eventually peaceful transfer of power.
I accept tonight the responsibility that you have given me to be the leader of this, the greatest country in human history.
I have a lot to be thankful for tonight. I'm thankful for America and thankful that we were able to resolve our electoral differences in a peaceful way. This peaceful transfer of power is one of the hallmarks of a true democracy.
President Carter, President Bush Sr., as well as the current president have all been very gracious and offered to provide any help that they can in this transition process.
We are now all rooting for his success in uniting and leading the country. The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
Simply breathtaking. That is I Pet Goat 2, and you can go to heliofont.com. He's worked on many movies like The Spirits Within, Final Fantasy. He worked on The Doctor, that I think was the best animated in there. And he is also someone who worked on Gollum for the Lord of the Rings film. Just an amazing artist and spent years putting together what you just saw. I mean, the archetypal images in it, a lot of people have projected onto it their own thoughts, their own ideas, and they say the most powerful art out there is basically designed to do that. Some people have said it's satanic and it's programming us.
So as most of you know by now, I Pet Goat 2 has been out for a little while, as well as the many interpretations on it. Now, I had done my own before even looking to any others, and I can say that this is the first one to break it down this way. So definitely stay until the end. It's going to be a huge connection, huge picture that I'm going to paint for you guys. Long story short, it's going to touch on Freemasonry, Akhenaten, that specific bloodline, where Freemasonry started, as well as the Obama prophecy, which I think specifically all confirms what I Pet Goat 2 is really trying to say. So let's get into it.
And actually,
that looks like me. Look at those ears.
And he was the overseer of the pyramids.
So you think Obama is a clone of Akhenaten then?
Let's get to that. Let's have a look at this. All right. Now, I've established the idea that Akhenaten is the go-to guy for all the secret societies, from Rosicrucians to Freemasonry. If you also understand that Akhenaten was the carrier of all of this knowledge, the renegade, you would understand why they would bring him back out of all people. And like I say, the Hastings Institute even went forward and said this. Well, you know what? I put this picture and I split, again, the faces in half. Now, I'll admit here live on television that I did not manipulate, squish, or do anything to make that face fit the other face. They just fit. I cut them straight in half and I put them together and they are an exact match. So now we have two faces of a single family of Egypt and a single family that is the first family. So you're looking at Akhenaten split with Barack Obama, and you're looking at Queen T split with Michelle Obama. Okay, so we're dealing with the fact that you can clone a mummy, that cloning has been going on since 1951, that if the secret societies in charge of our planet were gonna bring back anyone in the world, it would be this man. And now we've got this mysterious man who we call Barack Obama, and I'd like to get into more of him a little bit later. Of course, he's Barry Soetoro, Barry Dunham. Nobody knows what his name is, and I predict that is
no one knows where he's born. No one knows his real identity, right?
Exactly.
He was born on Krypton.
Exactly.
Amid the remains of dozens of pharaohs, Egyptologist Salima Ikram is going to help me find one whose name is Akhenaten.
There he is.
Akhenaten.
Yep. He thought that there were too many gods and not enough focus was on him. There really needs to be an important god whom only I can channel.
So he changed things.
Radically. He basically closed down most of the temples, said that there is a special god, the sun god, the Aten, and that you can worship the Aten through me.
And that didn't go over too well with a few people.
No, that was not a very popular move because, of course, all the priests of the other important gods were shut down.
Around the year 1350 BC, Akhenaten declared the sun would be Egypt's only god. In doing so, he would found the first faith in recorded history with a single deity. Akhenaten hoped his son would continue this legacy, but his son was only 9 years old when he took the throne. His name was Tutankhamun.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Rule, and now the question of the day. Was Tut possibly reincarnated as Jesus Christ?
Now there's a new book out by noted scholar Maurice Cotterell entitled The Tutankhamun Prophecies. And in it, he claims that King Tut, seen here, actually was reincarnated as Jesus Christ. Cotterell also points out that in the tomb of Tut, there are hieroglyphics referring to him as the Son of God, similar to Jesus Christ. Also, those hieroglyphics refer to an unfulfilled religious mission that Tut had. Another idea is that Jesus may have had many previous incarnations. Don't forget, Buddha had 350, he claimed. Now, if we're going to go this far and assert that Tut may have been had reincarnated into Jesus, I'd like to nominate another pharaoh, Akhenaten, who was actually the predecessor to Tut and possibly his father. At his death, the religious hierarchy which had opposed him, just as the religious hierarchy at the time of Jesus opposed him, destroyed those temples and called Akhenaten an enemy of Egypt.
A few years before she died, the famous American psychic Jean Dixon granted an interview to an Austrian journalist during which she revealed some final details concerning the birth and ancestry of the so-called Antichrist, the prophesied charismatic leader of the coming world government. According to her visions, he would, on his mother's side, be of Davidic lineage, and his father's bloodline would be related to the ancient Egyptian pharaoh, Akhenaten.
What do we really know about our ancient ancestors, the Sumerian civilization? Who were these gods, the Anunnaki? What does Anunnaki mean? We know that there are several words that essentially mean the same thing. According to ancient Sumerian texts, it simply means those who from heaven to earth came. And when you look into the Sumerian epic of creation in the book of Genesis, we see a very similar story told. In Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, it reads, "And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. There were Nephilim in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown."
I am the daughter of a 32-degree Mason, and here's what I know. Okay, granted, I made the intro seem a lot more sinister and mysterious than what the video is really gonna turn out to be. Thing is, since I'm not a Mason, I can never actually know all of the secrets behind being a Mason, so as far as exposing them, not sure how that's gonna go. But I do have access to materials that most people, I assume, would not have, such as the manual, weekly newsletters, and these giant, like, dictionaries for words and concepts of the Mason practice. I don't know, they're huge, and I didn't read through the entirety of them, but I read through most of them. There are 33 degrees of Masonry. The 32nd is the highest you can reach as a layman. You have to be like a CEO or someone high up in the government to achieve the 33rd degree. After that, you become something called a Shriner. I don't know much about the Shriners. No one in my family is a Shriner, and they kind of keep themselves a little separate from the Masons. Anyway, so I was very thorough going through this bad boy. This one was published in 1973, and it states that the Masons were officially established in 1735, which is a little different from their claims of tracing back all the way to Solomon's Temple, unless they just liked that, and so they were like, yeah, we're gonna take the Solomon's Temple thing and go from there. But depending on who you ask, and even Masons that you ask, some of them will say, oh yeah, they were Masons at the temple, and it's like, well, yeah, but were they just building rocks, or were they you guys in your secret little club? I don't know.
Out of this philosophy, eventually it became formalized, and the Knights Templars, within a large religious system, were the harborers of the ancient philosophy. In other words, they were the harborers of the secret of Gnosticism. They had very close ties with the Islamic societies, and eventually we saw that the Knights Templars were suppressed by the King of France. Many of them escaped, however, to Spain, where the king in Spain gave them his protection, and they flourished further, and their rites and rituals and degrees were perpetuated in subsequent organizations. So the Templars never really died other than in name.
And by the way, that's not even Freemason. That's not how you spell Freemason. You spell Freemason P-H-R-E, Freemason, which means son of light, which is the last degree that you go in the African Kemetic wisdom school. You have the initiate, you have the apprentice, then you have the son of light. That's when you're an elder. You're a son of light. And that's what a Freemason is. Frey, light, mason means son of.
What I'm saying is, so is there something about God that the Masons know that other people who are not Masons don't know?
No. He's the same God to everybody.
This is the only question that I feel like my grandfather kind of danced around on purpose, not just because that's how he talks. Whenever I asked him if the Masons know more about God, he said they did, but when I asked him straight out, he said no, and then kind of talked in a circle for a little bit. Okay, so like I said, someone who lives by, say, the same moral compass that a Mason lives by, taking care of others, serving the Lord with all his heart, is there something he doesn't know because he's not a Mason? Is there something about the Bible or about God that is exclusively knowledge that only Masons have?
No. No, it's right in there, and he's got the same reading that we have.
So back to my question then, so is there a difference between that person outside of they're just not a Mason? If that person serves the Lord, takes care of others, is charitable.
He's as good as that Mason is if they're both serving God under the same principles.
So again, what is the incentive to be a Mason if you can just be a part of a church and serve the Lord in that capacity instead of, having to go to lodge meetings and paying dues and things like that?
I never thought about it like that.
During his reign, the pharaoh Akhenaten was able to abolish the complex pantheon of the ancient Egyptian religion and replace it with a single god, Aten, who had no image or form. When modern archaeologists came across the strange figure of Akhenaten in the ruins of Tel el Amarna in the middle of the 19th century, they were not sure what to make of him. Some thought he was a woman disguised as a king. By the early years of the 20th century, when the city of Amarna had been excavated and more became known about him and his family, Akhenaten became a focus of interest for Egyptologists, who saw him as a visionary humanitarian as well as the first monotheist.
Now, with those gods abolished, Akhenaten and Nefertiti took their roles for themselves. They would be the only link between the life-giving sun god and the world of the living.
This right here is a hieroglyph of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. The spiritual realms were preparing everything before God came down in the flesh as Jesus Christ. Even in these old hieroglyphs, it shows all about the end times and even things that are going on back then being controlled by the watchers, if you will, aliens. Now, we've shown this many times on my channel before, all around the world. This glyph here I have broken down several times for the last couple of years. There are some other people on YouTube that are breaking down this same glyph. It's okay if they want to claim all of the glory, if you will. I give everything up to the Lord God. But I showed these things first, so let's show all of the truth here. This one here shows about the alien that I show on my channel all the time coming, interweaving with man. Here he is right here. That is him. This is his head. He has these things that hang down way like this. His head goes way back and is in part of Akhenaten here. Akhenaten is doing things with the sun rays and creating different lily things, little mass, if you will. This is a way that the spirits can jump. Do you see this man in this little chalice right here? He has come through from the other side of whatever the other side is, and he is in this chalice now, ready to be drank. This little entity. He will now be a spirit inside of whoever Akhenaten puts him into, just as this alien is inside of his head. See how the head is weaved together? Right there. I've shown this same alien at Area 51 also. He's all around the world. So there he is, right there. He has his hand around his puppet. He is known as the puppet master. Akhenaten is his puppet, and he is creating more puppets with these little entities that they create through the sacrifices. And they even make little mask things. In other words, you put the mask on, and this spirit jumps inside of that host body and is controlling the person. So this is that right there.
If you see me ever use imagery, you're going to know that I'm using it not to just create, some sort of marketing gimmick, but I'm going to use it so that I can actually have an honest discussion with people, like the one that I did on the Martyr when I asked people about so-called Masons and Illuminati, and I said, listen, Masons are people that I've known many Masons in my life. They're people that are very well acquainted with the history of both Europe and Africa. As a matter of fact, one of the degrees is to study the Quran and realize the organizational capacity that it has for a society in restructuring the world when Europe lived in absolute chaos and darkness.
But what I see it now as, you know, with my research in symbolism, which I didn't know much about when I started the film, I can now see that it's a ritual, as it's a ritual about, it's kind of a way to say, look, this is what's going to happen to your economy, because those two towers are a symbol of the economy. And when they crumbled, it was like, we will implode your economy. And you watch as you watch your economy crumble. So that's what it means.
Exactly. As I've studied the Illuminati, who really are the opposite of what they say, they seek to create darkness, but then call themselves illuminated because they're going to be illuminated, but you're going to be in darkness. That well, it's basic magic. They have to engage in the lesser magic of telling you what they're going to do up front. And so the mojo is 1 trillion times more powerful when they actually do it.
170,000 Americans dead. Millions of jobs gone, while those at the top take in more than ever. Our worst impulses unleashed, our proud reputation around the world badly diminished, and our democratic institutions threatened like never before. Now, I know that in times as polarized as these, most of you have already made up your mind. But maybe you're still not sure which candidate you'll vote for, or whether you'll vote at all. Maybe you're tired of the direction we're headed, but you can't see a better path yet. Or you just don't know enough about the person who wants to lead us there.
When our founders declared a new order of the ages, they were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled.
The end of the Republic has never looked better.
Folks, there is a new world order that's being created.